My name is Karen Kruger, and today we're going to have a conversation about women in educational leadership. There are some fundamental flaws in the representation of women in leadership positions in education. We know that women make up 76% of the teaching staff in K through 12 schools, yet only 12% of principals and superintendents throughout the country. Though we've seen some gains in recent decades, 12% is not enough. An additional area of concern is that we know that more women than men participate in educational leadership programs, yet still seem to wind up in many fewer administrative positions. Let's take a look at some of the causes of underrepresentation in educational leadership for women. For starters, we have tradition. Typically, leadership is a male-dominated area, which means that men are often more comfortable working with other men in leadership positions. But that dovetails into our second point about stereotypes. Very often, in graduate programs for educational leadership, but in many other areas of industry, we have cultural stereotypes that affect how men and women are viewed in their professional roles. For instance, many women report being referred to as aggressive when their male counterparts are considered assertive. They are expected to encourage others and be team players, whereas men are often encouraged to be the stars of the show. There's plenty of evidence to indicate that we expect many women to be nurturers and caretakers instead of leaders. Additionally, we run into issues of sexual innuendo and sexual harassment that keep many women from pursuing leadership positions. And then we also have concerns over work-life balance. Many of our studies show that women in the home where there are two full-time employed people still do more than 80% of the housework. Very often, we're not used to considering work-life balance because many of the people who have traditionally been leaders haven't had to worry so much about it. When we start talking about women in leadership positions, who are also in leadership positions in their home and responsible for much of the caretaking, we have a lot of issues. Once we understand what some of the issues are in terms of why women are so underrepresented within schools and districts, we can start talking about some of the solutions. First of all of the data points to mentoring, whether it's formal or informal, is a major solution for helping attract talented women into educational leadership positions and keep them there. Many research studies indicate that having a mentor, someone to give them support, someone to guide them, someone to encourage them to continue their pursuit of leadership, inspires many women to not only enter leadership, but continue in their administrative roles. It doesn't necessarily matter whether it is a formal mentoring program or an informal mentoring program. Having a mentor helps women get into leadership positions and stay there. Additionally, as we know that sexual harassment is an issue, many school districts do not necessarily have a firm protocol for sexual harassment. They do not necessarily have training measures in place, and they do not necessarily have remediation trainings in place for coworkers who do not demonstrate a proper understanding of sexual harassment through their actions. Finally, and perhaps most inspirational, we can start talking about training women early to not only look for leadership positions, but to feel like leaders from adolescence. Many studies have shown that by providing a framework for building leadership skills among adolescent girls, we set them up for success in their professional lives. They often feel more confident expressing their opinions. They feel that it is less important if people like them. And they also feel that they can collaborate with others and take on a leadership role. Fundamentally, all of our research points to the same thing. There is a significant and important underrepresentation of women in educational leadership. Education is and has traditionally been a field dominated by women, and it is time that women not only serve as the teachers, but as the people who manage and guide the teachers in their practice. We have the tools at our disposal to do this by developing strong mentoring programs, be they formal or informal, by creating and enforcing effective protocols for sexual harassment, and finally, most importantly, by building a framework that can guide leadership skills with young women, we can in fact make the changes that will lead to a much greater representation of women in educational leadership.